He controlled an empire built on blood and silence, but he couldn't control the one thing that truly mattered: his little daughter's loneliness. Dante Moretti, the most feared capo in Chicago, could make kings and politicians bow, but he couldn't make his 6-year-old daughter smile. Sophia lived in a world of self-imposed silence since her mother died 2 years ago. She didn't speak, didn't play. She just existed, like a ghost in a castle of luxury, until that night. Until a waitress with calloused hands and a soft voice knelt beside the girl's chair, and in the forbidden tongue of Napoli whispered something that no expensive psychologist had achieved: a single lullaby. And for the first time in 730 days, Sophia smiled. In that moment, Dante Moretti realized that the woman who owned nothing had just stolen everything from him. This is the story of how a whisper in Italian destroyed a man and rebuilt a father. The Venetian chandelier at Ristorante Bellini poured golden light over the marble tables, but Dante Moretti felt none of its warmth. The light only highlighted his daughter's ghostly pallor. Sophia Moretti, 6 years old, sat in her chair, staring blankly at an untouched plate of ravioli alla parmigiana. Her pink dress was perfect, her dark curls carefully combed by the nanny, but her eyes, those brown eyes that once sparkled with life, were empty. "Sophia, tesoro," Dante said, his deep voice carrying a softness he reserved only for her. "Don't you want to eat? It's your favorite." Nothing. Not a glance. Not a movement. Dante adjusted the cuff of his Tom Ford 3-piece suit, feeling the familiar weight of helplessness tighten his chest. He was Dante Moretti, head of the Moretti family. He controlled the Chicago ports, the unions, the underground casinos, and 6 politicians in his pocket. His world was made of deals whispered in private clubs, money exchanged in executive briefcases, and violence that was quick, precise, and always silent. He was feared, he was respected, and he was completely powerless to reach his own daughter. Across the restaurant, the chef-owner, Giovanni Bellini, watched with an expression of genuine concern. Giovanni had known Dante for 20 years. They grew up together on the same streets of Little Italy, before the power, before the blood. Giovanni had chosen the path of cooking. Dante had chosen another path. "She still won't eat?" Giovanni asked quietly, approaching the table with a special plate, panna cotta with raspberry sauce, Sophia's favorite dessert when she was younger. "No," Dante replied, his jaw tensing. "But thank you, amico." Giovanni placed the plate delicately on the table. "Lucia would be proud of how you care for her, Dante. You know that, don't you?" His late wife's name was like a knife. Dante only nodded, unable to speak. Bellini wasn't neutral territory. It was his. Every waiter, every chef, every important client knew who he was. But he needed to go out sometimes. Needed to pretend, even if just for an hour, that he had a normal life with his daughter. A life where Sophia was just a 6-year-old girl eating pasta, not a ghost trapped in a small body. He had tried everything. Child psychologists who charged $1,000 an hour, therapists specializing in trauma, even a medium his sister insisted he consult. Nothing. Sophia hadn't spoken since her mother's funeral. Dr. Martinez, the last therapist he'd tried, said it was as if Sophia had decided that if she didn't speak, she wouldn't have to face the reality that her mother was never coming back. Silence was her protection, her prison. A young waitress approached the table, her movements agile and efficient. She couldn't be more than 23 years old. Her dark brown hair was pulled into a practical ponytail, and her simple black uniform was impeccable. Her eyes, dark green like olives, had that exhaustion Dante recognized, the mark of someone who worked too hard to survive. But there was something else about her, a dignity, a quiet strength that reminded Dante of his own mother, who had worked 3 jobs to raise him after his father died. "Is everything to your liking?" she asked, her voice soft, professional. Italian accent, authentic, not the fake one many waiters used to impress tourists. "Yes, thank you," Dante replied briefly. The waitress nodded and turned to leave, but then Sophia, in a sudden and rare movement, knocked over her water glass. The liquid spread across the table, dripping onto the marble floor. Dante stood immediately, grabbing napkins. "Sophia, tesoro, it's okay." But Sophia wasn't looking at him. Her eyes were fixed on the spilled water, and tears, real tears, the first he'd seen in months, began streaming down her cheeks. It was as if the glass had broken something inside her, as if the dam was finally cracking. The waitress stopped. She didn't turn to fetch cloths or call for help. She simply knelt beside Sophia's chair, at eye level with the girl. "Piccola," the waitress said, and her voice changed. It was no longer professional. It was soft, laden with a pure Neapolitan dialect that Dante hadn't heard since childhood. "Non piangere, stellina, l'acqua cade, ma le stelle restano." Don't cry, little star. Water falls, but stars remain. Dante's heart stopped. Sophia turned her head, something she rarely did for strangers, and looked at the waitress. The young woman continued, her voice a lullaby, ancient and forgotten. "Fai la nanna. Fai la ninna, fai la nanna, bambolina, la tua mamma non c'è più, ma le stelle vegliano su te." "Sleep, sleep, little doll, sleep, sleep, little child. Your mother is no longer here, but the stars watch over you." It was the song Dante's mother sang to him as a child. It was the song his late wife, Lucia, sang to Sophia. The song he himself had forgotten the complete words to, lost in the decades of distance from his childhood. And for the first time in 2 years, Sophia opened her mouth and whispered a single word, "Mama." Dante's world collapsed. The waitress didn't realize the bomb she had just detonated. She simply wiped up the spilled water with gentle efficiency, grabbed extra cloths, and dried the table. Then she gave Sophia a kind smile, a smile that reached her eyes, genuine and warm, and walked away, disappearing into the kitchen. Dante remained paralyzed, staring at his daughter, who was now crying, really crying, sobbing, for the first time since the funeral. Around them, other customers began to look, some with curiosity, others with sympathy. Giovanni Bellini appeared quickly, a portable screen in his hands to give them privacy. "Sophia!" Dante's voice failed. She extended her small arms to him, and Dante picked her up, pressing her against his chest. She buried her face in his shoulder, and he felt her tears soaking his $3,000 Armani suit. He didn't care. She could ruin 1,000 suits if it meant she was feeling again. "Papa," she whispered against his neck, "mi manca la mamma." "I miss Mama." Dante closed his eyes, holding her tight, feeling something inside him break and rebuild at the same time. His own tears he hadn't shed since Lucia's funeral, began to fall. "I know, tesoro, I know." His voice was hoarse, breaking. "I miss her too, every day." Giovanni discreetly stepped away, giving them space. But Dante saw the emotion on his old friend's face. Everyone who knew Sophia knew what this moment meant, but while holding his daughter, Dante's eyes searched for the waitress in the crowd. He saw her through the kitchen door, conversing briefly with another employee, before returning to the dining room with a tray, serving other tables as if nothing extraordinary had happened, as if she hadn't just performed a miracle. He didn't know who she was, didn't know where she came from, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. That woman just made my daughter speak. And Dante Moretti, a man who didn't believe in miracles, who had seen too much, done too much, lost too much to believe in divine goodness, had just witnessed one. When Sophia finally calmed down, still clinging to him but breathing more regularly, Dante motioned to Giovanni. "Who is she?" he asked quietly, his eyes still on the waitress. Giovanni followed his gaze. Chiara Benedetti, new here, works 3 nights a week. Student, I think. She's from Napoli? I think so. By the accent." Giovanni paused. "Why?" Dante didn't answer. He just kept watching as Chiara moved through the restaurant with discreet grace, always polite, always efficient. She didn't know she was being watched, didn't know she had changed everything. When it was finally time to leave, Dante left a tip of $5,000 in cash on the table, along with a simple business card that said only Dante Moretti and a phone number. On the back, he wrote a single line in Italian: "Grazie per avermi restituito mia figlia. Thank you for giving me back my daughter." The waitress's name was Chiara Benedetti. Dante knew this in less than 12 hours. The next day, he was in his office. A minimalist and intimidating space atop a skyscraper in the Loop, the legitimate facade of his import-export organization. His consigliere, Marco Ricci, stood before his desk. Marco was a 40-year-old man, impeccably dressed, with a mind sharp as a razor and loyalty Dante had tested countless times. He was the only person Dante trusted completely. Marco had been by his side when Lucia died, had helped organize the funeral, had held Dante when he finally broke down in the privacy of his office. Chiara Benedetti, Marco read from a thin folder. 23 years old, Italian citizen, here on a student visa, enrolled in the music program at DePaul University, has been in the country for 8 months. Dante leaned back in his leather chair, hands clasped under his chin. Music. Bellini is far from campus. She has 2 jobs, Capo, Marco continued. 3 nights a week at the restaurant and 4 mornings a week at a daycare near Lincoln Park. Little Hands Daycare. A daycare. Dante raised an eyebrow. She plays piano for the children, teaches Italian songs. Marco turned a page. She pays tuition on time, but lives modestly. Small apartment in Little Italy. Shares with another Italian student, a Francesca Rossi, also a music student. No criminal record, neither here nor in Italy. No known connections to families or organizations. Family? Dante asked, his voice calm, but his eyes sharp. Marco hesitated. Parents deceased. Father, Giuseppe Benedetti, died 5 years ago, heart attack. Mother, Rosa Benedetti, died 3 years ago, cancer. Had a younger brother, Luca Benedetti, 19 years old, killed in a car accident 6 months ago in Napoli. Marco paused, his tone softening. She's alone, Capo. Completely alone. Alone. The word echoed in Dante's mind. She was alone, just like Sofia, just like him. The dialect, Dante said. She's from Napoli? Yes, grew up in Napoli, the historic center. Poor area, but culturally rich. Her father was a carpenter, her mother a seamstress. The family lived modestly, but she earned a partial scholarship at DePaul for her piano talent. Marco placed a photo on the desk, a printout from her social media profile. Chiara smiling in front of a piano, her eyes shining with genuine passion. There was no artifice there, just pure love for music. She performs in occasional recitals on campus, Marco added. Specializes in Italian Baroque compositions. Scarlatti, Vivaldi, Corelli. Some of her professors call her a prodigy, a civilian. A music student working 2 jobs to pay for college. No connections to families, no involvement with the life. But she knew that song. That specific song that only someone from Napoli, from a specific generation, from families who kept ancient traditions, would know. Does she have a boyfriend? Close friends? Dante asked. Boyfriend, no. Friends, just her roommate and some classmates. She keeps minimal social life, works, studies, goes home. On Sundays, attends Mass at Our Lady of Pompeii Church. Dante was surprised by this. She's religious. Appears to be. Never misses Sunday Mass. That explained something. The genuine kindness, the natural empathy. She wasn't just a student working to survive. She had values, principles, a moral compass that guided her actions. What do you want done? Marco asked. Dante was silent for a long moment, looking out the window at the city stretching below him. Chicago was his. Every street, every business, every corrupt authority. He had a dozen problems that morning. The Caruso family was pressing his territory in the south. A judge was asking for a higher bribe, a shipment of luxury wine from Tuscany was stuck in customs, and he was wasting time thinking about a waitress. But she wasn't just a waitress. She was the woman who had made his daughter speak for the first time in 2 years. Nothing for now, Dante said finally. Just maintain discreet surveillance. I want to know if anyone approaches her, if she has any problems, if she needs anything. Marco nodded, but there was an unspoken question in his eyes. Speak, Dante ordered. With all due respect, Capo, are you interested in her? Dante didn't answer immediately. Was he interested? He didn't know. All he knew was that woman had touched something in him that had been dead for 2 years. I'm interested in keeping my daughter happy, Dante said finally. And if that woman is the key to that, then yes, I'm interested. Marco nodded slowly. And what about Sophia? Dante closed his eyes briefly. The night before, after they returned home, Sophia had spoken 3 more words before falling asleep. 3 precious words. Canta pra mim, sing to me. And he sang. He sang the song he didn't remember completely, improvising the parts he'd forgotten. He sang until Sophia fell asleep, her small hands holding his, her face finally peaceful. Sophia is better, Dante said, opening his eyes. But she needs continuity, needs stability, needs... He didn't finish the sentence, but they both knew what he didn't say. She needs that woman. I want you to find out everything about Chiara Benedetti, Dante said, his voice shifting to the command tone his men knew well. Everything. What she likes, what she fears, what her dreams are. But be discreet. I don't want to scare her. Understood, Capo. Marco turned to leave, but Dante called him back. Marco. Yes? If anyone tries to hurt her, I want to know immediately. The consigliere studied his boss for a long moment. He'd known Dante for 15 years, had seen the man order executions without blinking, had seen Dante negotiate deals that changed the balance of power in Chicago, had seen the capo at his best and worst. But he'd never seen this specific expression on Dante's face. It was protection, genuine concern for someone outside his immediate family. She'll be safe, Marco promised. Dante nodded, turning back to the window, and Marco left, already pulling out his phone, to mobilize the surveillance network. That night, Dante did something he hadn't done in years. He drove alone. He didn't take his armored Bentley with driver and escort. He took a discreet car, a black Audi sedan he kept in his private garage, and drove to Bellini after midnight, when the restaurant was closing. He had no plan, no prepared speech. He just needed to see her again. He waited on the street, watching. He saw the last customers leave, saw the kitchen lights go out. He saw Giovanni lock the front door and light a cigarette, a habit the chef swore he'd quit, but never could. And then he saw Chiara exit through the back door, wrapped in a thin coat, too thin for October cold in Chicago, a worn backpack on her shoulders. She looked tired, exhausted, as if she carried the weight of the world on her narrow shoulders. But even so, there was something about her, a determination, a strength that wouldn't bend. She started walking toward the bus stop. Dante got out of the car. Chiara Benedetti. She stopped mid-step, turning quickly. Her eyes widened upon recognizing him. Signor Moretti, she said, her voice trembling slightly. She took a step back instinctively. Is something wrong? Is your daughter okay? She asked about Sophia first, not about herself. Didn't question why he was there. Her first concern was the child. She's fine, Dante said, walking toward her slowly, maintaining respectful distance. Thanks to you. Chiara shook her head quickly. I didn't do anything, signore. I just wiped up the water. You sang to her. She froze, her eyes meeting his. You sang a Neapolitan song my wife used to sing, Dante continued, stopping a few steps from her. The streetlight cast shadows on his face, but his eyes were intense, burning with an emotion he hadn't shown in years. A song I haven't heard in years, and my daughter, who hadn't spoken in 2 years, said her first word. Tears glistened in Chiara's eyes. I didn't know. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Don't apologize. His voice was firm, but there was something in it, a vulnerability he rarely showed. I want to thank you, really. It's not necessary, signore. I was just doing what anyone would do. But you're not just anyone. The words came out more intense than he intended. Chiara studied him, her green eyes searching his, looking for intentions, looking for danger. She wasn't naive. She knew who he was. In Little Italy, everyone knew. "What do you want from me?" she finally asked, her voice low but firm. The honesty of the question surprised him. She didn't pretend, didn't play games. "Have dinner with me," Dante said. "What?" "Have dinner with me," Dante repeated, forcing himself to maintain control. "Not as customer and waitress, as guests. I want to thank you properly, and I want to know the person who brought my daughter back." She took a step back. "I can't, signore. I have class early tomorrow and work at the daycare and—" "Once," he said, "just once. Tomorrow night. You choose the restaurant. I pay. And afterwards, if you want, you'll never see me again." She studied him, her eyes searching his. He saw fear there, intelligent fear. She knew who he was. Everyone in Little Italy knew. Dante Moretti wasn't just a wealthy businessman. He was power, danger. But she also saw something else. She saw a desperate father, a man who had lost everything and was clinging to a thread of hope. "Please," Dante said, and the word sounded strange in his own voice. He didn't ask. He ordered, negotiated, demanded, but never asked. Asking was vulnerability, and vulnerability was weakness. But in that moment he didn't care. Chiara bit her lip, her eyes moving away from his, looking at the empty street, at the bus approaching in the distance. She could get on that bus and never look back, could draw a line, keep her life simple and safe. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Just once, in public, and I choose the place. Anywhere you want." She took a deep breath. "Tomorrow, 7 o'clock, at the cafe near DePaul University, Java House. A university cafe. Public, safe, smart. I'll be there," Dante promised. The bus stopped beside them. Chiara climbed the steps, then turned. "Signor Moretti?" "Yes? Your daughter? She just needs time. And love. Keep singing to her." And then the doors closed, and the bus departed, carrying her away. Dante stood there, watching the bus disappear into the Chicago night, and for the first time in 2 years, he felt something he'd forgotten: anticipation. He didn't take her to a cafe. The next day, when Chiara arrived at Java House at 7 o'clock, she found Dante waiting outside, dressed not in an intimidating suit, but in dark jeans and a simple shirt under a wool coat. He looked almost normal, almost human. "I thought you wouldn't come," she said. "I promised. Men in your position don't always keep promises." He smiled, a small, sad smile. "You're right, but I'm trying to be different, at least tonight." "The cafe is right there," she pointed. "I know, but I thought, if you're willing, there's a better place, more private, but still public enough for you to feel safe." She crossed her arms. "Where?" "Art Institute of Chicago. They have a nighttime exhibition of Italian Baroque art. I thought that as a music student you might appreciate it." Chiara blinked, surprised. "How do you know I study music?" Dante hesitated. The truth would scare her. So he chose a partial lie. "Giovanni told me. You mentioned it to him when you were hired." She studied him, not entirely convinced, but then nodded slowly. "Okay, but we go separately. I'll take the subway. Or I can give you a ride. I promise it's safe." "No." "All right." He respected the boundary. "I'll meet you there in half an hour." The museum was different at night, quieter, more intimate. Dante had reserved a private tour, something that cost $10,000 and some connections, but was worth every penny when he saw the expression on Chiara's face as she entered the Baroque gallery. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her eyes scanning the paintings by Caravaggio, Artemisia Gentileschi, the forgotten masters few knew. They walked slowly, and Dante discovered she didn't just speak about music. She spoke of art, of history, of the connection between sound and image. "Look here," she said, stopping before a Caravaggio painting, The Calling of St. Matthew. "The light, always the light." Caravaggio used chiaroscuro, the contrast between light and shadow, to create drama. It's like Bach used silences in music. The emptiness is as important as the sound. "You see a lot," Dante said. "When you grow up with nothing, you learn to see beauty in small things." She looked at him. You understand that, don't you? Why do you say that? Because Giovanni told me. You grew up in Little Italy, son of immigrants. Your father died when you were young. Dante tensed. Giovanni talks too much. He cares about you. Said you were like a brother to him. We were, once. Dante paused. Before I chose my path. And do you regret it? The question was direct, honest. Every day, Dante admitted. But regret doesn't change anything. It just reminds me of the price I paid. They continued walking, the silence between them comfortable. Then Chiara stopped before a small sculpture, a Pietà, Mary holding Christ's body. My mother had one of these, she said quietly. Very small. It was in our apartment in Napoli. When she died, I brought it with me. Do you still have it? Yes. In my apartment. She lightly touched the glass, protecting the sculpture. Sometimes, when I miss home, I hold it and remember her voice, the songs she sang. Like the song you sang to Sophia. Chiara nodded. Mia nonna, my grandmother, used to sing it to my mother, and my mother sang it to me and my brother. It's a tradition, passed from generation to generation. Your brother? Dante hesitated. I'm sorry for your loss. She turned to him, surprised. How do you know about Luca? Dante realized his mistake. He shouldn't know about her brother. Giovanni mentioned it, he lied again. Sorry, didn't mean to bring up painful memories. But Chiara wasn't foolish. Her eyes narrowed. You investigated me. It wasn't a question. Dante could have denied it, could have elaborated another lie. But looking at her, at those green eyes that saw through artifice, he chose the truth. Yes. Why? Because you touched my daughter. And in my world, that means I need to know who you are, if you're safe, if you have dangerous connections. And her voice was cold now. What was your conclusion? Am I a threat? No, he searched for the right words. You're rare, genuine. In a world of lies, you're truth. You don't know me. No, but I want to. Chiara took a step back. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have come. Chiara, wait. No. She raised her hand. I know who you are, signore. Everyone knows. And I don't want to be part of that world. I ran from that life. Dante froze. What do you mean? Tears glistened in her eyes. My father, Giuseppe Benedetti, he didn't die of a heart attack. He was killed for not paying protection to the Camorra in Napoli. Dante's world stopped. I was 18, she continued, her voice trembling. I saw men enter our home, saw what they did. My mother never recovered. Cancer took her, but it was the pain that really killed her. And my brother, Luca, was trying to avenge our father when he died. It wasn't an accident, it was a message. She wiped away tears. So yes, Signor Moretti, I know who you are. I know what you do. And no matter how kind you seem, no matter how much I want to believe you're different, you're part of the same world that destroyed my family. Dante couldn't speak. All he could do was stand there, feeling the weight of his own choices, of his own blood on his hands, crushing him. I'm sorry about what happened to your daughter, Chiara said, her voice softening. Really, but I can't be part of this. I can't be part of you. And she turned and ran, her steps echoing in the empty gallery. Dante didn't follow her. What could he say? That he was different, that he'd never killed an innocent father? But he had killed many, maybe not fathers, but sons, brothers, friends, and each one had left Chiara's behind. He stood there, alone in the museum, surrounded by art from centuries past, reminders of beauty in a world he had stained with blood. And for the first time in years, Dante Moretti felt shame, but fate wasn't finished with them. 3 days later, the threat came. Not for Dante. For Chiara. Marco entered his office, his face pale. Capo, we have a problem. What? Angelo Caruso knows about Chiara Benedetti. Dante's blood froze. Angelo Caruso was his most dangerous rival. Head of the Caruso family, younger than Dante, more impulsive, more brutal. He saw Dante as a relic of the past, a man stuck in old traditions. How did he find out? Someone at Bellini talked, said you were interested in her. Marco placed photos on the desk. Our men recorded these last night. The photos showed Chiara leaving the daycare, and behind her in a dark car, Caruso's men watching her. "They haven't done anything yet," Marco said, "but they're awaiting orders." Dante stood so fast his chair toppled backward. "When? Mobilize everyone. I want protection on Chiara 24/7, discreetly. She can't know." "Capo, she already made clear she doesn't want your protection." "I don't care. Caruso will use her to get to me. I won't let another person I love get hurt." The words came out before he could stop them. "Another person I love." Marco blinked but didn't comment. "Yes, Capo." The message arrived the next day. Chiara was at the daycare playing piano for a group of small children. It was a peaceful October morning, sunlight streaming through the windows, the children singing Nella Vecchia Fattoria on the old farm, their voices high-pitched and off-key but full of joy. Then the door burst open. 2 men, tall, dressed in leather jackets, entered. They said nothing, simply grabbed a small chair and threw it against the window, shattering the glass. The children screamed. The daycare director, a 50-year-old woman named Mrs. Patterson, came running. "What are you doing? Get out of here! I'm calling the police!" One of the men pushed Mrs. Patterson hard, making her fall. Her head hit the corner of a table, opening a deep cut on her forehead. Blood flowed. Chiara immediately stood, placing herself between the men and the children, her arms spread like a shield. "Leave the children alone!" she shouted, her voice trembling but firm. The taller man, scar on his face, cold eyes, smiled. It was a cruel, reptilian smile. "Message for Moretti," he said, his voice low, threatening. "Tell him nothing is safe. Not you, not the children, nothing." He grabbed a frame from the wall, a painting made by one of the children, and threw it on the floor, crushing it with his boot. "Next time, it won't just be property." And then they left. In 30 seconds, it was over. The daycare was destroyed, windows broken, furniture overturned, children crying, Mrs. Patterson bleeding. And Chiara, trembling violently, knew exactly what this meant. This wasn't random. It was a message. And it was because of him. She didn't call the police. The police couldn't do anything against men like those. She'd learned that in Napoli. She called an ambulance for Mrs. Patterson, calmed the children, waited for parents to arrive, and then, when everyone had left, she simply grabbed her things and ran to her apartment, locked the door, and sat on the living room floor, hugging her knees, trying to control the panic threatening to consume her. She had fled that life, fled the violence, the fear, the world that had killed her father and brother, and now, because of one date, she was back. Her roommate, Francesca, was in class. Chiara was alone. She grabbed her mother's small pietà and held it against her chest, closing her eyes, trying to remember her mother's voice singing. But all she heard was the sound of breaking glass and children crying. That's when someone knocked on the door. Chiara froze. Her heart raced. "Chiara?" A male voice. "My name is Marco Ricci. I work for Dante Moretti. Please open the door. You're in danger." "Go away." "I can't do that. Angelo Caruso's men are coming. You have 5 minutes, maybe less." Chiara stood trembling and looked through the peephole. She saw Marco Ricci, a professional-looking man, dark suit, serious expression, and behind him 2 other men, clearly bodyguards. "I won't go with you!" "Then you'll die here," Marco said, his voice firm but not cruel. "Caruso wants to use you against Dante. They'll kidnap you, and what they'll do before returning you, you don't want to imagine." Tears streamed down Chiara's face. "Why does Dante care? I made clear I want nothing to do with him." "Because he's a fool in love," Marco said, and there was a trace of sad humor in his voice. "And because, despite everything he is, he doesn't let innocent people die when he can prevent it." Chiara closed her eyes. Did she have a choice? Really? She could stay and risk it, could call the police and hope they arrived in time, or she could trust the devil she knew. She opened the door. "Just until Dante resolves this," she whispered. "Just until he resolves it," Marco promised. Dante's mansion in Lake Forest became Chiara's refuge, but it wasn't a prison. It was a sanctuary. When they arrived, it was already night. The property was enormous, surrounded by high walls and electronic gates. Inside, the mansion was elegant but not ostentatious. Classic furniture, art on the walls, but also photos. Photos of Sofia, photos of a beautiful woman with dark hair and a warm smile. Lucia, Chiara presumed. Photos of a family that had been happy. Dante was waiting in the entrance hall. He looked exhausted, as if he hadn't slept in days. "Are you okay?" were his first words. "Physically, yes. And emotionally?" Chiara laughed bitterly. "What do you think?" "I think you're scared, angry, and you have every right to be." He didn't try to touch her, didn't try to console her, just stood there at a respectful distance. "How long?" Chiara asked. "How long what? How long until you resolve this with Caruso?" Dante hesitated. "I don't know. Days, maybe a week. And if you don't resolve it, I will resolve it." "How? By killing him?" The question was direct, brutal. "If necessary," Dante replied, equally direct. Chiara shook her head. "Violence creating more violence. The cycle never ends. Sometimes it's the only language men like Caruso understand. And you? Is it the only language you understand?" Dante was silent. "Papa?" They both turned. Sofia was at the top of the stairs, dressed in pink flannel pajamas, holding a worn teddy bear. Her eyes went immediately to Chiara. "Chiara!" Sofia shouted, then ran down the stairs, throwing herself into Chiara's arms. "Sei tornata! Sei tornata!" You came back. You came back. Chiara, despite everything, despite the fear, the anger, the trauma, felt her heart melt. She knelt and hugged the girl. "Yes, Piccola, I came back." Sofia pulled back, her hands on Chiara's face. "Promet? Promise?" Chiara looked at Dante over Sofia's head. He was watching them, his expression indecipherable, but his eyes were full of pain and hope. "I promise," Chiara whispered. And in that moment, she knew she'd crossed a point of no return. The days that followed were strange. Chiara had her own room, enormous, overlooking the gardens, a private bathroom with a marble tub. There were new clothes in her size in the closet, music books on the shelf, a grand piano in her own private conservatory. It was a golden cage. But Sofia made it bearable. The girl was hungry for attention, for connection. Chiara spent her days playing piano for her, teaching her Neapolitan songs, reading stories in Italian, and slowly, day by day, Sofia began to speak more. Not just isolated words, but complete sentences, questions, observations, genuine laughter. "Why is the sky blue?" Sofia asked one afternoon while they were in the gardens. "Because sunlight has all colors," Chiara explained. "And when it enters the atmosphere, the blue colors scatter more. It's like music, all the notes playing together, but you hear some more clearly." "You're smart," Sofia said, smiling. "And you're curious. That's even better." Dante watched from a distance, usually from a window of his office on the second floor. He saw Chiara and Sofia together, saw his daughter finally alive again, and he saw the woman who had made this possible, slowly relaxing, smiling, allowing herself a moment of peace. At night, after Sofia slept, Dante and Chiara dined together. Not for romance, but for necessity, conversation, company. "How's the work to resolve this?" Chiara asked one night, pushing her risotto around the plate. "Complicated," Dante admitted. "Caruso has allies. I need to expose him without starting a full war. And if you can't, I will." "Do you always get what you want?" Dante stared at her. "No, otherwise my wife would still be alive." Silence fell between them. "How did she die?" Chiara asked softly. Dante hesitated. He didn't talk about this with anyone, but looking at Chiara, at those green eyes that had already seen so much pain, he found himself wanting to share. "Car accident, 2 years ago." His voice was hoarse. "A drunk driver ran a red light. She died instantly. Sofia was in the back seat. She saw everything." "Oh, Dio," Chiara whispered, tears filling her eyes. "The poor child." "The doctors say that's why she stopped talking. Witness trauma. She associated speaking with remembering, and remembering was too painful." Chiara reached across the table and without thinking touched his hand. "I'm sorry." Dante looked at their joined hands, small and delicate against large and scarred. "You remind me of her," he admitted. "Not physically. Lucia was different, but your strength, your kindness, the way you see light where others see only darkness." "I'm not strong," Chiara said. "I'm terrified all the time. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." She smiled sadly. "You read philosophy. My mother taught me that, before she died. You've lost many people." "Yes, it's the price of my world." Chiara gently withdrew her hand. "Then why don't you leave? Why don't you leave all this behind?" "Because men like me don't leave. The only way out is in a coffin." "That's not true. You could—" "I can't." His voice was firm. "I inherited this empire from my uncle. He chose me, trained me, prepared me, and when he died, he left everything to me. Hundreds of people depend on me. Families, businesses. If I leave, others will come, others more cruel. At least I have codes, rules. Rules like not killing innocent fathers." The question was a blade. "I've never killed an innocent," Dante said, his voice low, controlled. "That's my line. It always has been. But you've killed." "Yes." "How many?" Dante closed his eyes. "I stopped counting." The silence between them was heavy, loaded with unspoken truths. "I should hate you," Chiara whispered. "I know, but I can't, and that scares me more than anything." Dante opened his eyes and found her looking at him with an intensity that pierced him. "Why?" he asked. "Because when I look at you, I don't just see the monster. I see the father, the man who sings to his daughter, the man who keeps photos of his wife all over the house because he can't let her go." Tears streamed down her face. "I see someone as broken as me, and that scares me because it means we're the same." "We're not," Dante said, standing and walking to her. He stopped before her, looking down. "You're light, Chiara. I'm darkness. Don't confuse compassion with equality." "Then why do you care about me?" she challenged, standing to face him. "Why risk everything, your position, your empire, for a waitress you barely know?" Dante stared at her, and for the first time, let his defenses drop completely. "Because when you sang to my daughter, something inside me that was dead awakened, and for the first time in 2 years, I felt hope. And then when I discovered who you were, your story, your pain, your strength, I realized you weren't just the person who brought my daughter back. You were the person who could bring me back too." Chiara let out a sob. "Dante, I know I have no right to ask anything of you," he continued, his voice breaking. "I know I represent everything you hate, everything that hurt you, but I can't stop caring. I can't let you go. You have to, because if you don't, I'll fall in love with you, and loving you will destroy me." "Then we're both doomed," Dante whispered. And before either could stop it, before reason could intervene, he kissed her. It wasn't a kiss of conquest. It was a kiss of surrender, of 2 broken hearts finding refuge in each other. Chiara pulled away first, her hands trembling. "We can't do this." "I know. This will only end in pain." "I know. Then why does it feel so right?" Dante touched her face gently. "Because sometimes the most wrong things are the only ones that make sense." But the outside world didn't wait for romance. The next morning, Marco entered Dante's office, his face grim. "We have a problem, Capo." "What?" "Angelo Caruso isn't just targeting Chiara. He's targeting Sofia." Dante's blood froze. He stood slowly, his voice pure ice. "Explain." "He has men watching the house. He knows Chiara is here. He knows Sofia is speaking again." Marco placed more photos on the desk. "And our informants say he's planning to kidnap Sofia." "When?" "Tomorrow, during a possible transfer to school. He thinks you'll try to normalize her routine." Dante clenched his fists so tight his knuckles turned white. "Gather all the men," he ordered, his voice low, lethal. "I want complete surveillance. Nobody enters or leaves this property without my authorization, and I want a meeting with Angelo Caruso." "He won't accept a meeting, Capo." "Then we'll force him." Marco hesitated. "There's something else." "What?" "Caruso is spreading rumors, saying you're weak, that you're being controlled by a woman, that Sofia has made you soft." Dante smiled. a cold, dangerous expression. Let him think that. Underestimated men are dangerous. And what about the council? The other families are hearing these rumors. The council was composed of the heads of all Chicago families. They met rarely, only when there were threats to the balance of power. "Call a meeting," Dante said. It's time Angelo Caruso answered for his actions. That night, Dante couldn't sleep. He stayed in his office, documents spread across the desk. They were financial records, proof Marco had meticulously collected over months. Angelo Caruso was embezzling money, not just from Dante, but from all the families. He was using shared funds, money meant for bribes, legal protection, collective investments, to finance his own businesses. It was treason, punishable by death. But Dante needed to present the evidence properly, needed the other families to see, needed a unanimous verdict. There was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," he said, not looking up. Chiara entered, wearing a silk robe Dante had provided. Her hair was loose, falling in waves over her shoulders. "You don't sleep?" she asked. "I can't. Not until this is over." She walked to his desk, looking at the documents. "Is this about Caruso?" "Yes." "What are you going to do?" "Expose him. Before all the families. Let them decide his fate. They'll kill him, probably. And that doesn't bother you?" Dante finally looked up. "He threatened my daughter. No, it doesn't bother me." Chiara sat in the chair across from him. "In Napoli, I saw what vengeance does. My brother Luca was consumed by it. He couldn't think of anything but avenging our father. And it killed him. What do you want me to do? Let Caruso run free to hurt Sofia? No. But there's a difference between protection and vengeance. Not in my world. Then change your world." Dante laughed bitterly. "You make it sound so simple." "It's not simple, but it's possible." She leaned forward. "You said you have codes, rules, that you're different. Prove it." "How?" "Don't kill Caruso. Destroy him another way. Take his power, his respect. Let him live knowing he lost everything." Dante studied her. "You think like a strategist. I think like someone tired of seeing death." He was silent for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "All right, I won't kill him, but he'll pay, in other ways." Chiara smiled, a small but genuine smile. "Thank you. Why do you care about a mobster's soul?" "Because Sofia needs a father, not a killer." The words hit him like a shot. "And you?" Dante asked softly. "What do you need?" Chiara stood, walking to the window overlooking the moonlit gardens. "I need to believe good people can come from dark places, because if I don't believe that, then my family died for nothing." Dante stood and walked to her. He stood behind her, close enough to feel her warmth, but without touching. "I'm not good, Chiara. Maybe not, but you're trying to be better, and that counts." She turned, and they stood inches apart. "Stay," Dante whispered. "After this is over, stay with me. Stay with Sofia. Stay with us." "Dante, I'm not asking you to be my mistress. I'm not asking for sex or submission. I'm asking for partnership, family, something real." Tears filled Chiara's eyes. "Are you sure? Because if I stay, I'm not leaving. I'll love her. I'll love you." "Não, ainda falta completar. Vou continuar de onde parei e finalizar a história completa em inglês." "And I can't lose another family." "You won't lose us, I promise." "You can't promise that. No one can." "Then let me try." Chiara looked at him, really looked. She saw the scars, saw the darkness, saw the blood on his hands, but she also saw the father, the widower, the man desperately trying to be better. "Okay," she whispered, "I'll stay." And this time, when they kissed, it was a promise. The confrontation happened 2 days later in an abandoned warehouse on the south side, neutral territory, agreed upon by all families. Dante arrived with Marco and a dozen of his most trusted men. Angelo Caruso brought the same number, but also present were representatives from all the other 5 major Chicago families, the De Lucas, the Fontanas, the Grecos, the Russos, and the Vitales. The eldest boss, Salvatore De Luca, 70 years old, white hair but eyes sharp as razors, served as mediator. "Dante Moretti," Salvatore said, his voice echoing in the warehouse. You called this council. Speak." Dante walked to the center, his boots echoing on the concrete. He carried a leather folder. "Angelo Caruso," Dante said, his voice calm but loaded with authority, "is stealing from all of us." Angelo laughed. "Lies! You're desperate, Dante. Weak because of a waitress and a crying child." Several of Caruso's men laughed. Dante didn't react, simply opened the folder and handed documents to each boss. "Inside these documents," Dante explained, "are bank records showing Angelo has embezzled over $5 million from collective funds in the last 18 months. Money meant for bribes, legal protection, shared investments. He stole from each of us." The warehouse went silent as the bosses read. Angelo's face paled. "This is forged. Dante fabricated this to discredit me. The documents were authenticated by our own accountant," Marco said, stepping forward. "Roberto Gallo. He's willing to testify." Roberto, a 60-year-old man who had served the council for decades, entered. He was respected by all families, neutral, honest within the limits of their world. "It's true," Roberto said simply. "Angelo Caruso systematically embezzled funds. I have the original records." Salvatore De Luca looked at Angelo, his expression stone. "Do you have anything to say?" Angelo looked around, seeing the closed faces of the other bosses. He was surrounded. I can return the money," Angelo stammered. "It was an accounting error." $5 million isn't an error," Franco Fontana, another boss, said coldly. "It's treason. Furthermore," Dante continued, "Angelo threatened my daughter, a 6-year-old child. He sent men to terrorize a daycare full of innocent children." Murmurs of disapproval echoed. There were codes, lines that weren't crossed. Innocent children were one of those lines. "You crossed all lines, Angelo," Salvatore said, standing. "You stole from your own families, threatened children, brought shame to all of us." Angelo tried to draw a gun, but it was too fast. Salvatore's men grabbed him, disarmed him. "Angelo Caruso," Salvatore declared, his voice echoing like a judge. "You are declared dead to us. Your family is dissolved. Your territories will be redistributed. You have 24 hours to leave Chicago. If you're seen again, you'll be killed on sight." It was a sentence worse than death. Angelo had lost everything: power, respect, territory, family. He would be an outcast, a ghost. "Dante!" Angelo screamed as he was dragged away. "You'll pay for this. I will—" But his empty threats were lost as he was thrown out of the warehouse. Salvatore turned to Dante. "Well played. You could have killed him, but you chose humiliation. That shows wisdom." Dante nodded respectfully. "I'm trying to do things differently." "Your waitress making you soft," Franco teased, but there was respect in his tone. "My woman," Dante corrected, "is reminding me there's more to life than blood." The bosses exchanged glances. Then, surprisingly, Salvatore smiled. "Perhaps you're wiser than we thought, Dante Moretti." When Dante returned home, it was almost dawn. He entered the mansion quietly and climbed the stairs to Sophia's room. She was sleeping, Chiara sitting beside the bed in a chair, also asleep, her hand holding Sophia's. Dante's heart tightened. They were his family, his reason to be better. "It's over," he whispered, though both were sleeping. Chiara stirred, her eyes opening slowly. When she saw him, she smiled. "Really? Really? Caruso is banished. Sophia is safe. You're safe." She stood carefully not to wake Sophia and walked to him. She wrapped her arms around his waist, burying her face in his chest. "You're a dangerous man, Dante Moretti. I know, but you're also a good father, and an honorable man." He held her tight. "Stay with me, forever." She pulled back enough to look at him. "Are you sure? Because if I stay, I'll change everything. I'll make you go to Mass. I'll make you donate to charity. I'll transform parts of your empire into legitimate businesses." Dante smiled, a real smile, the first in years. "I'm counting on it. Then I'll stay." And they kissed, sealing the promise. 6 months later, the Moretti mansion was full of life. Sophia, now almost 7 years old, ran through the gardens, her laughter echoing across the property. She was in regular therapy, speaking more each day, processing the trauma of losing her mother in healthy ways. Chiara was in the conservatory, teaching a small group of children from low-income families. Dante had financed a foundation, the Lucia Moretti Foundation, dedicated to teaching music to underprivileged children. Chiara ran it with fierce passion, and Dante was changing. He was still the capo, still ruled with a firm hand, but he was moving more resources to legitimate businesses, investments in art, education, community infrastructure. He was building something Sofia could inherit without shame. That specific afternoon, Chiara was playing piano, a Scarlatti piece, when she felt arms around her waist. "You play beautifully," Dante murmured in her ear. "You distract me," she replied, but she was smiling. "Come with me, I have something to show you." He led her to the garden, where a small chapel had been built. It was simple, beautiful, with stained glass showing Neapolitan scenes. "What is this?" Chiara asked, amazed. "Our place," Dante said. "I thought if we're going to do this right, we should do it in God's eyes." Chiara turned to him, tears in her eyes. "Are you proposing to me?" Dante knelt, taking a velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a simple but stunning ring, a solitaire diamond in white gold. "Chiara Benedetti," he said, his voice trembling. "You brought me back from the dead. You gave me hope when I had none. You transformed my daughter, my home, my life. I'm not perfect. I never will be. But I promise to spend every day trying to be the man you and Sofia deserve. Will you marry me?" Chiara fell to her knees before him, holding his face. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He placed the ring on her finger and kissed her, the setting sun casting golden light over them. "Papa! Chiara!" Sofia ran to them, throwing herself into both their arms. "Are you getting married?" she asked, excited. "Yes, Piccola," Chiara said, kissing her forehead. "We're going to be a real family." Sofia hugged them both tightly. "Finally, I have a mama again." Dante closed his eyes, holding his two girls, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time. Completeness. 2 years later. The wedding was small, private, only close family and closest friends. Giovanni Bellini was the best man. Marco Ricci walked the bride down the aisle. Sofia was the maid of honor, wearing a white dress and carrying rose petals, her laughter filling the chapel. When the priest asked, "Do you, Dante Arlo Moretti, take Chiara as your wife?" Dante looked at Chiara, beautiful in a simple but elegant dress, her eyes shining with tears of joy, and said with a firm voice, "I do, today and forever." "And do you, Chiara Rosa Benedetti, take Dante as your husband?" Chiara smiled through tears. "I do, with all my heart." "Then, by the powers vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife." And when Dante kissed Chiara, sealing their vows, he whispered in her ear, "Sei il mio miracolo." "You are my miracle." She smiled, tears streaming down her face. "E tu sei il mio," and you are mine. Epilogue. 5 years later, Sofia Moretti, now 12 years old, sat at the piano in the conservatory, her fingers dancing over the keys. She was playing the same Scarlatti piece Chiara had played that day years ago. Beside her, a little 3-year-old girl, Isabella Moretti, daughter of Dante and Chiara, watched with wide eyes. "Sissy, you play so beautifully," Isabella clapped. Sofia smiled, pulling her little sister onto her lap. "One day you'll play too, Piccola." Across the room, Dante and Chiara watched, arms intertwined. "Can you believe we got here?" Chiara asked softly. "Sometimes it feels like a dream," Dante admitted. "A dream I don't deserve. You deserve happiness. Everyone does." He kissed her gently. "Thank you for saving me. You saved me too." Because their story wasn't a fairy tale. There were no perfect endings. Dante still had shadows in his past. Chiara still had nightmares about losing family. But together, they were building something new, something real, something full of light. The Lucia Moretti Foundation now had 3 locations in Chicago, teaching hundreds of children. Dante had transferred 60% of his businesses to legitimate operations. He still had enemies, still had to make hard choices, but every night he came home to Sofia, to Chiara, to Isabella, his family, his redemption, and every night, before sleeping, Chiara sang the Neapolitan song, that same song that had changed everything. Fai la nanna, fai la ninna, fai la nanna, bambolina, la tua mamma è sempre qui, le stelle vegliano su di te. Sleep, sleep, little doll, sleep, sleep, little child. Your mother is always here, the stars watch over you. And in Dante Moretti's dangerous world, surrounded by darkness and violence, that song was his light. That whisper in Italian didn't just change his fate, it saved his soul. Did this story touch you? Leave in the comments what you thought of Dante and Chiara's journey. Do you believe even the most lost souls can find redemption through love? Your feedback fuels our creation. If this story resonated with you, show support by clicking like. It helps our channel immensely. Share with someone who appreciates deep stories of love, loss, and new beginnings. And don't forget to subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss our next stories. We have many exciting journeys coming. Until next time, and remember, the brightest light emerges from the deepest darkness.